Welcome to Bold Voices, Soft Hearts, a podcast featuring stories of finding passion through pain. We're so glad you're joining us. Here's our episode for the day.
Welcome to Season 3, Episode 2 of Bold Voices, Soft Hearts. If you've been around for a while listening to the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I am so pleased to announce that we are now on YouTube. The link is in our show notes, and you won't want to miss tuning in there to see with your own eyes our wonderful guest today. Drum roll, please. It's Christy Nockels. Christy is a worship artist, an author, a speaker, and the host of her own podcast, which I adore, The Glorious in the Mundane. She is a mama of 3 children and wife to Nathan. Christy is the daughter of a pastor born in Texas and raised in Oklahoma, where she lived simple beginnings that laid a sure foundation for her for the rest of her life. I am so thrilled to dive in. Welcome to the show, Christy.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. So good to meet you.
So good to meet you. And I was saying before we started that I have been just so immensely blessed by everything you've put out into the world. I read in 2022 your book, The Life You Long For. Highly recommend it, and really gave me pause to think about this idea of just sort of soaking in the present, being an artist myself and always being future driven. It's hard to just be where your feet are planted, right?
Yes, yes.
And even more so, fell in love with Beheld, your first lullaby album. And my son was born in 2018, and I literally listened to that on repeat in those early days. And now your new album, King Who Never Sleeps, Anthems for Rest. Christy, I love your work through your beautiful melodies and that you bring forth to the world. It just brings me back to the heart of things and what's really important. And I think now, at 7.5 years later, after first listening to Beheld, and as the mom of 2 little boys, one with Down syndrome, so I have a 7.5-year-old and a 4-year-old, almost 5-year-old with Down syndrome. The setting of my overwhelm has changed. I'm not a brand new mom, but that overwhelm creeps in.
Yeah.
So with the release of King Who Never Sleeps, I found myself connecting yet again to the poignant words and deeply moving melodies at this stage of my parenting journey. And I'm so grateful for that. So I'm wondering if you can talk to me about the posture of your heart as you made these 2 albums 8 years apart. What is different and what might be the same?
Yeah, that's such a great question. It's so funny. I mean, just kind of on the logistical side of things, this was an album that I always wanted to make, and I was on record labels for so many years, and they would just say no. Like they're like, you can't make that record. It won't make any money. It's just maybe like minimal for like the market we're trying to. And so it's just always, I got a no on the Christmas record, and I got a no for a lot of years on wanting to do this lullaby album. And I think probably because I didn't even really know at that point in my life what this was going to look like. And it was a deeper calling than I even imagined. I would just say, like, I want to do a lullaby album. But it was so sweet how the Lord knew that was a desire of my heart. And I totally get, I'm not ragging on the record executives for saying no, but I totally get it if you don't understand sort of, and I even, like I said, didn't understand the fullness, I think, of what God was calling Nathan and I to when I really honestly, like, I don't say this about a lot of things, but this idea almost, when it really did come time for the Lord to be like, okay, it's time. I really do want you to do this album. It was like a download. But what was sweet was that it called back to these moments That first album, Beheld, a lot of those songs started in the rocking chair when I was rocking my three kids to sleep back in the day. I mean, literally, like those were like song starts for what we just ended up honestly like kind of finishing for that Beheld album. It was like, let's go back to these little moments where I was honestly learning how it was like before the book, it was like God was actually teaching me how to rest in those days. He was teaching me how to be his kid again, while he was also teaching me to prioritize my children over my career, over anything else that I had spent in. And he was teaching me how to see these precious people, not just for these humans that need me all day long, but truly like see them for who they are, who he made them to be. And so that was kind of that posture of that first album was like, okay, it was sweet to like, okay, I'm gonna go back to like what God's been teaching me for so long and kind of bring that posture into these songs of me learning to be held by him, and I think that's where the best parents we can be when we ourselves are allowing God to hold us. And so I was learning that. It makes me tear up. It's just like that's the posture. It's like when we're hearing him sing over us, like when we're listening to the song he's singing over us. His word is full of it. And we're receiving it. Like that's when, we're able to be the best parents and sing over them, our own when we're able to receive it like that. And so that's really, and of course, just like you are right now, I was in the thick of it, when a lot of those songs were just being birthed in that place. And now it's so sweet. I mean, our we're on the verge of empty nesting. The kids are now 25, 22, and Annie will turn 18 this week, our youngest. And so different season all together. But it's sweet, I've thought so many times, like we even like before we were Watermark, Nathan and I and our friend Charlie, we were called Sons and Daughters. We were a worship group called Sons and Daughters. And even someone said this to me recently, like sons and daughters become mothers and fathers. And so when you learn to live from that and even parent from that place of being a daughter, you do like he begins to birth in us over the years a spiritual mother's heart, and yes, it's over our own, it's in our own parenting, but also even just with younger women that are around us who are looking to us, who are a little bit down the journey than they are. I think there is a mothering heart that God wants each of us to learn to grow into. And I think that's sweet. Not that I have anything figured out, but it's more just like, wow, I've been doing this a long time and I've seen his faithfulness over and over. And I believe these are some declarations that we could sing over our families, and it's almost like that's the posture of the second one. It's just like, I've done this over and over, and I feel like these declarations are so powerful to sing at bedtime or to sing, in the minivan, in the carpool line or whatever. So it's sweet to have the different seasons and the different albums, but
It's really so remarkably beautiful to see almost as bookends the albums and really sweet for me in my personal journey, which I'm sure a lot of people will relate to, like where I was then and where I am now and where I'm going.
yeah.
I'm wondering if you can share a bit about your journey as a parent and artist. I find myself in that space where I have so much pouring out of me as a person, as a daughter of God who has a lot to say, and I'm pouring into these children. And I'm wondering
Yeah.
how how has parenting shaped your artistry, and has it been difficult to balance your passions of writing, songwriting, and
Yeah.
parenting?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, thankfully the Lord got a hold of my heart when my kids were little, in terms of that balance and in terms of just like I was saying earlier, like um, being able to um, really see them for who they are and not, just barrel through with whatever I felt like he was calling me to do over here, but also just like this is, um, you know, women. It's funny. My husband and I talk about this all the time. We don't compartmentalize.
No.
It's all the things, and so that was sweet of the Lord to show me that. And He's just like, actually, all of this can be one thing, and your artistry and your mothering, it actually can all exist in this beautiful place together. And, as I was learning, even just that He was with me, like I was learning so much about His withness with me in those early years of parenting, mothering. And as I was learning that, I'm not in this carpool line in this minivan by myself. You're right here with me. And so even I would just learn, I would just start talking to Him and praying. And so it was like the kids, they were learning to kind of, they're like, oh, we're praying, and I was learning that He was with me in the mundane, but it was the same with my artistry. It was the same with the songwriting. Now, I may not have been able to have these like long songwriting sessions anymore, where I could take 2 hours and go sit by myself and get my journal out.
Right.
That wasn't practical anymore. But what He was showing me was that I could write songs in the carpool line and, in the mundane. And that changed my life. It was like, oh, I probably seriously in that minivan, I bet you, I was so sad the day we sold that. We had it for 8 years. I bet I wrote 30 songs behind that steering wheel with the
Wow.
kids, with me. And that changed everything when I learned that it didn't have to look this certain way or like it did before, that they could. I'll never forget one time, Nathan, I was really, it was a time I was super frustrated because of not being able to maybe finish something that I had started or like I was working on as a songwriter. And He wasn't ragging on me, but it was a real, like, I'll never forget it. It was kind of this like challenge. And He was like, what if you used your creativity to mother? Like, what if you used your artistry, you brought that into your mothering? And he was just like, you're the most creative person I know. He was like, invite them into it. And so we have through the years, I mean, just for instance, just we did a Christmas tour when the kids were littler. I think Noah was probably 16 or 17, and the girls were like middle school and grade school. And it was something that we did together as a family for 4 or 5 years, and made sure that it was something they wanted to do. First of all, we weren't making them do this, but something we were going to kind of sacrifice as a family. But it was a sweet way to keep inviting them into my artistry, not forcing them into it, but just like, is this something you want to be a part of? And so the girls, the all the kids have been involved in our albums throughout the years. Our daughter did the artwork for this album. And so, yeah, it's just inviting them and bringing them in has been a major key point for me. That's been a blessing in return. So,
So beautiful. I had just had an experience yesterday with my almost 5-year-old. He's in a stage where he wants me all the time, and I'm working. I have a
mhm.
full-time job doing advocacy work, and I was so frustrated because I just wanted to finish what I was working on. And I'm so blessed that I get to work from home, but I just wanted to get done the thing that I wanted to finish. And he was listening to these songs, these nursery rhymes, and he just kept saying, Mama, 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 Mama. And so I finally got up and was like, you know what? I'm just going to sing this with him. I'm going to sing and dance with him. My background's in musical theater, and I'm going to dance my heart out. I'm going to have this moment with him. And when you know it, it's exactly what you said. I shared in that moment with him, and that artist in me came alive in that. And through that, my work afterwards was stronger and fueled
Yes,
by that moment, right?
that's right. That's right.
How
I love
often
it.
do we resist that because we want it to look the way we want it? Like how you
That's
mentioned,
right.
I want a journal next to a candle at this particular time. And that's
Totally.
not really a reality for us. so many
That's
times,
so
right?
true. That's so true. And it's like you brought up the sweetest point that I've experienced over and over. And even some of my friends have pointed it out. It's just like those times when you do make that choice of just like, you know what? They're right here. They're not going anywhere. And they're my first calling. And it's like when you did get up and you responded, there's like, my friend has said it this way, there's actually like an anointing in that when you choose to, and I don't throw that word around lightly, when you choose to walk, like just to say, okay, the work can come second,
Mhm.
this is going to come first, that in that choice, you're trusting God with what you are doing
Yep.
and you're making this choice, like this is the first calling. And then, like you said, you came back to this and
Yes.
it's just there was like there was momentum, there was power in it.
Yes.
And and you're so right that we do like in our flesh we resist.
Yeah.
But when you do submit to that, like that place of calling, a true calling, like it really does, like it's powerful when you experience it. I love that you brought that up.
Yes, well, it's so sweet that you mentioned bringing your kids in because I really think we can miss that. We can so
Yeah,
easily miss
absolutely.
that. Be like, it's time for my kids and it's time for my work and it's time for my artistry. But if we blend that, I love how Nathan encouraged you in that and how you've embraced that in the work that you're doing. Obviously, I'm in the thick of things with my boys running through the house and making messes and trying to be present in that and know that this is a season, right?
Totally.
It's a season, and I will one day have a clean house, and I'll probably having a messy house, maybe. I don't know.
You
But
will.
I just loved reading The Life You Long For because I related to so much about trying to be present in the right now and not rushing to the next thing. And that's so difficult for, I'm sure, so many people listening and watching are going, how do I do that when I'm running to this activity and this next thing? And I love the song Be Where Your Feet Are, especially for my son, Jed, with Down syndrome. And I'm just wondering, what are some things besides what you've already shared,
Yeah.
that help you be in the now in this season, raising your kids with them right now?
Yeah, that's so good. I mean, I think again, there's something powerful in and I think someone who's been down the journey a little bit as a mom to be able to like just share with younger moms because you know, there's that whole thing like when you have babies and you're able to say like, oh, this is just a phase. Like they're gonna like I promise this is gonna last this long and then there's gonna be something else. Like it's just, how you're able to go like, I promise like this too shall pass. But I think that's part of what helps me stay in the now is that there are these like there's such teachable moments like today,
Yeah.
with right where each of our kids are. And as you all know who have kids, they're all so different and
Yeah.
the way that they process. I mean, just last night, Nathan and I were talking about one of them, it's just like, okay, we've been here before with the other two. And, but because of her wiring, she's probably experiencing it like this. And I think that's one of the things that, helps keep me in the now because I know how fast it goes. It's so quick. And if there's anything I would love to encourage mamas around, especially even with littles, it's like leading and mothering with that flight in mind, because not that you're just always looking to the next thing or to tomorrow, like you were, saying you don't want to do, but in some ways, we talk about this all the time, you know, our adult kids were able to, we've made deposits in their life all these years, deposits kind of in the now. And later, when you want to make sort of a withdrawal, you can because you've deposited
Mm,
in their lives all this time.
yeah.
And so it is important in all these years to like parent with the flight in mind because, um, yeah, it is going to come quick, but then you're able to look back when you have chosen in the moment that this is the biggest thing in that child's world right now. Now,
Mm.
to us as parents, you might go, okay, this high school drama or whatever it is that's going on, this is it is in a many ways, you're just like, wow, this is like first world problems, or like this isn't really like, but we're like, but wait, it is the most gigantic thing in her world right now.
Yes.
And so to think that today, like in the now, we're able to shepherd her through this season or this moment, like it's everything, because we can look back and go, oh, with the other two, I remember when we shepherded this and we shepherded that. And if there's anything too that I could just encourage you mamas with, it's like you will see the fruit. It's like we've now lived long enough where it's like, you know, we're able to see the harvest of the times that we planted in the now, in the season, and you will see the fruit. And I know it's hard when you are in the thick of it and you're just like, is anything I'm doing today really mattering in their lives? And trust me, we still have those moments with, our almost all adult kids, but you will see the fruit, and then the parenting and planting in the now absolutely matters, and you'll see that harvest.
Yes, it's so so true. And so many of the moms and dads that I connect with in the disability community, it's so easy to be like, well, what is it going to be like when they're 20? And I don't know. I'm scared. And how do I, the anxiety that will come with what do I lay forth, and what's the next
Yeah,
thing, and what do I say yes to, and what do I say no to, and how do I not compare? I mean, this is just the hamster wheel that my brain
yeah,
can go on. But the
yeah.
beauty of raising Jed, my 4-year-old, is that he doesn't do that. He is where his feet are. He's like, look at this rose, mama. I'm going to smell it and I'm going to show you it and I'm going to say it's red. And he is in the moment. I've had no greater
Yeah.
teacher than him when it comes to just being present. And
Wow.
so when I speak to other parents in the disability community, I think, you know what? They don't have to be on. I love how you said each of our kids are different, but they also don't have to be on our timeline. I'm a very like motivated, driven person who wants to check off all these checks, and that's not everybody, right?
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
is such a joy in being right where we are. And so when I heard that song on your new album, I thought this is so perfect as an anthem for my community because we need to be where we are, right?
That's
There's
right.
nowhere else. We're not
Yeah.
guaranteed tomorrow, and yesterday's already gone. So where else are
That's
we
right.
trying to go?
That's right.
You know?
So good. I love it.
Yes. But I would just love to know a little bit more about the season you're in now. You said you're about to enter into, empty nesting, and I actually have had quite a few encounters with people who say, I just don't know. I don't know what this is. This is so bizarre. My kid just graduated from high school. Like, what is life? What do
I
I
know.
do? I just want to hear about some of the things, some of the struggles and joys in this season that you're encountering.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It's like we've had uh these little moments that, whether, Annie, our youngest, went on her senior trip. She was gone for a week, and of course we experienced the quiet house, and the quiet, it's a very strange thing, like you're saying right now, you're in the middle of it and you can't imagine, you're like, okay, one day. And it is so
To
true.
have a house as clean as your house.
One one day you'll just be like, okay. It's a strange reality.
Mm.
And it stirs a lot. Of course, I think, we're realizing right now that come August, we are going to move our youngest to Texas, and that's going to be like 14 hours from us. And we have moved a daughter that actually farther. We had our middle daughter, she moved to Colorado right out of high school. And so we have had a daughter live that far away before. So we already at least know how it feels. But I think we're already anticipating that we're going to need to find new rhythms. individually, but also, of course, together. Nathan and I just, we're going to have space. I think all these years, our kids really have come first. And, I even talk about in the book, I laid down my career for about 5 years when they were younger, and that helped me sort of reorient my life and our lives to where it has been sustainable for me to continue in my career. But all this time, it really has been from a posture of my family coming first. And so, we recognize that when Annie, moves to Texas, so we of course we'll be um, mentoring and shepherding our adult kids still, but it's not that day to day where they're just, you're sort of at the beck and call in a lot of ways when they're here in front of you. And it's like, okay, what do you need? What do we need to do? You kind of can get into that pace. And we're just like, wow, we're realizing there's going to be space. There's going to be quiet. There's going to be space. And, even recently on my podcast, I've just sort of talked about like, again, with young mamas, like sort of leading and mentoring and kind of encouraging in that as well, to like already in these moments when your kids are little, to lead with like learning how to sit in that quiet with the Lord, even if you only have 10 minutes, or even if it is at the kitchen sink, learning what that looks like to process. I think like identity is a big one when you can get to this place and your kids have flown and you're like, wait, who am I? What am I supposed to be doing with my life? But to think, I'm so grateful that the Lord started that identity conversation with me when the kids were little. And it's so important that I learned, like, oh, I'm a daughter of God. My identity isn't wrapped up in just that I'm a mom or that I'm a singer or a writer. Um, my full identity and calling is that I'm a daughter of God. I'm his beloved.
Mm.
And learning to kind of start that conversation, early on is so important for right now, because then right now, I'm almost able to just sort of take that next step of like, okay, as a daughter, Lord, with this space net that I now have, what do you have for me? And I do feel like it will just be a next step towards that spiritual mother's heart of like, who's around me, even locally, or like, what do I need to be, just how can I encourage young moms where they are when they're still in it, to kind of, again, like parent and mother with the flight in mind, so
Mm.
that when you are here, you're understanding quicker, and you're able to, I think, respond quicker in that quiet and in that space, if that makes sense, because you've been journeying and you're not left with this like, oh my goodness, who am I? What am I doing?
I love it.
So I'm grateful that the Lord has, again, not that I have anything figured out. I'm still dealing with the space and the quiet.
Yes.
I'm still wrestling there. But it's important to have those tools and go, okay, the first place I'm going is God.
Mm.
Jesus, I'm coming to you with this. Like, what do you have for me here? And learning to just be in that practice of doing that. So that's what I'm learning now. It's like, okay, I know how to do that. And so how do I do that every day? And bring in this space, bring in this quiet, bring in this season to Jesus and going, okay, I'm starting with you first. Like, what do you have for me in this?
Mm. So beautiful. I didn't anticipate talking to you about this, but I love as conversations develop, just hearing you speak, kind of about this idea of service. I've heard you talk about mentoring and discipling
Mhm.
and looking for the one who's behind you in the journey.
Yeah.
I think that when moms in particular in the thick of their own stress and anxiety, and I'm speaking from personal experience, it can be really hard to
Yeah.
think, well, what service am I to anyone else? Like, I
Yeah.
need help myself.
Totally.
How can I help anybody? But I think it's so beautiful that you've talked about in these seasons of life that you have served not only your children and your husband, but that you've had the opportunity to serve and care for the people around you and your community, and probably in turn have received that back, right? Can you talk a
Yes.
little bit about about that because that seems to really inform where you are now, that giving and receiving of
Mhm.
service.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, yes. I remember, again, it was just back in that time when the Lord was calling me to lay down my career. He was calling me to come and learn what it looks like to be his daughter, to be his beloved, and that being the highest calling on my life. And then, mothering and songwriting from that place, not just living for God, but learning how to live from him. And one of the first things that I realized, or what the first thing that happened to me, was I started seeing other people for the first time. Because, like you're saying, it's just like we're all, let's be honest, we're just all in it so much that it's just so like we get so focused on because it's hard, right? I mean, just life is hard and the pace that this culture keeps is brutal. And it's, we're all just trying to sometimes in some seasons just survive, right? We can get in that pace. And I was in the thick of that in that season of my life. But it was like when the first time the Lord started just teaching me how to rest, like he showed it to me, in the book I talk about, it was like a bullseye in a concentric circle, it's like a target sign. It was like, if you just hit this bullseye with me, if you come home to my heart, and you live your days from me, like from this place of being my kid, from being my daughter, I'll actually help you. I'll show up in all the outer rings of your life and I'll show you my glory. Like I'll do it. Um, I'll take your songs to places you could never take them if you'll just come home to my heart. Well, in that, I realized in coming home to his heart, there's kind of this middle ring I talk about in the book, just that middle ring. I realized, oh, there's like also community in that. There's a community of the beloved. And I realized when I just finally could like look up from my own stuff and look out, there were these women that were in my life, most of them at that time looking back, they were about to be pregnant with their first, maybe the year to come. So I was just a little bit farther down the road. And in my particular field, all of you have maybe a different, field you could kind of just refer this to. But like in my field, of course, it was leading worship and songwriting. That is what part of what I'm called to do. And as I looked around, I'm like, oh, all these women either lead worship at their church or they want to sing or songwrite or lead worship. They want to do what I do. And the Lord's like, yeah. He's like, I'm bringing women into the general vicinity of you. And you have those people too, Misty. I mean, you have those people in your community that God has brought into the general vicinity of you. And same for all you listeners. It's like whatever it is, whether you bake, whether you are just like, I can't say just a homemaker. You are a homemaker. It's like that is, as we all know, it's a full-time job. Um, Whether you're a homemaker, whatever it is that God is, maybe you do have a job on the side that you're also going out and working outside of the home, or you work outside of the home. Whatever it is, you have people in your life who are watching you and they want to do what you do and they want to know how you're doing it. And it was so cool. I remember saying the same thing. But God, like, I I can barely like take care of my own. Like, what do I have to offer these people? And at that time, we still have this farm table to this day, but he was just like, you have this farm table and you can learn how to just share a meal at this farm table. And I'll never forget, this is kind of just funny all on its own, but like I had discovered that there's this Jiffy cornbread box, like it's 99 cents, maybe 70. Well, it's probably $1.29 now, but it was like 75 cents back then. If you turn that Jiffy cornbread box over, there's a pancake recipe for
Oh.
cornbread pancakes. And at that time in my life, I had discovered that we haven't made them in forever because they're not healthy, I'm sure, but they're delicious. And I had, cast iron skillet, and he was like, make pancakes do dinner at night, make pancakes at this farm table, invite these girls over. And so that's what I did the very first time was I made Jiffy cornbread pancakes. And they all thought it was like, they're like, what are these?
Flip over my box. You'll find out. That's amazing.
But just for 99 cents,
Yeah.
I fed this group of women and we had the best time. And it started this just like a realization in my life that, oh, they just want to see how I'm doing life with God. That's it. And that's just that's what you have to share. How are you doing life with God and with your kids? And just invite younger moms into it and younger women into it if you don't have kids. And it's as simple as that. And then you can just grow in that. And that turns into this place of like, whether, mentorship, service, like just and I have known some of those, I've stayed in relationship with many of those women for more than 20 years now. And it's beautiful. Now they all have kids. Their kids are getting into middle school and high school. And it's a beautiful thing.
So good. I love this conversation, and I'm so thankful, Christy, not only for what you've shared today, but just the influence you've had. I just think, gosh, I know how much you have influenced me in different chapters of my life, and just thinking about those women that you just spoke about, pouring into them, how much you have blessed on a small and a grand scale, and that is all for the glory of God, and that's evident in the work that you do. And I'm just so thankful for you, and I'm so inspired by the way that you share your gifts with the world, and that you would take your precious time to speak with me today and to my community. It means so much.
Thank you. I loved this. Thank you so much, Misty.
It was a real treat. God bless you, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Bold Voices, Soft Hearts. We hope you'll share this episode with a friend, leave a review, and keep using your voice to spread light in the world. Bold Voices, Soft Hearts.